Horses, Hope, and Hustle, the podcast where faith leads, grit drives, and the Western way of life runs deep. I'm your host, Crystal Show, wife, horsewoman, entrepreneur, and believer that God doesn't waste the hard stuff. Around here, we talk real stories, big dreams, and the kind of hustle that's rooted in hope. So pull your hat down, pour that coffee, and let's ride. Today, I'm sitting down with Kameron Bumgardner of Two Guns Western. This story is about changing your life and what can happen when you actually follow through. From a struggling ranch hand to building a brand that supports his family, Kameron shares what it took to let go of what was holding him back and to step into something better. This one's about hard choices, discipline, and building something real. Let's get into it. All right, guys. Today I'm here with Kameron Bumgardner. Kameron, do you want to introduce yourself to our listeners?
Absolutely. I'm Kameron Bumgardner, and I'm the owner and founder of Two Gun Western Apparel. I was a long-lost average hired man that turned into a business owner and apparel mogul, I guess at this point it feels like. I've taken what was nothing and it's turned into, as you can see behind me, a full apparel shop between embroidery, screen printing, sewing patches on, pressing patches on, DTF, the whole 9 yards. It's snowballed out of control. We started the brand in February of 2022. And like I said, I was a hired man, so things didn't really get out of control until last year when I really strapped down and went sober and decided that this was what I wanted to do. I was naturally an artist. So I was making, at the time, I was making designs and logos for other people in my off time with the computer above my laptop right now in my double wide trailer. And I was slinging designs for $50. And at one point I was like, well, I don't know why I don't just make my own designs. And that's where Two Gun came from. I never really thought I would be an apparel maker. I aspired to be a great horseman and a great cattleman, which we could touch on this later, but I still am branded yesterday and I feel it. I haven't worked that hard in a long time. I would say 6 months since I quit the last ranch I was at. I feel it still today. We had a little mishap and I did get stomped out by a soggy, dang near yearling. And I feel it in my back. Got all ripped up. But like I said, I that's where I wanted to be. But also another topic we can get into is how hard it is to start from zero, start a cattle operation from zero in Montana. As many people know, what is happening in Montana is not easy between land and leases and all that. But I was lost, especially after I got out of the Marine Corps. I did 4 years in the Marine Corps. I was lost, did not know what I wanted to do other than I wanted to be a cowboy. I mean, that's the plain fact about it. And fell into this and I love it. It's a way to, people always tell you, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. I think they're wrong a little bit in that aspect. I think it definitely has its perks of doing what you love every day. It definitely has its perks, but it's not. We still work. You still work. It's like asking a rancher if he loves what he does and he doesn't work. No, you still work pretty hard.
Yeah. Sorry, I gotta plug my computer and the screen keeps trying to shut off on me.
That's a good point. I didn't check my battery either. We're good.
So you had no idea that you would own an apparel company.
No. And I say this as a joke. If I was to go back and do it all over again, I think that there was other paths that I could have taken to make a little bit more money. I did go to welding school. I'm a welder. I'm a jack of all trades, a master of maybe a few. I went to welding school, and I thought I was going to be a pipeline welder. When I got out of the Marine Corps, I used the GI Bill to go to welding school, and I was like, I'm going to hit the pipeline. I was going to go to West Texas and hit the pipeline. My first daughter was born at the time, and got to thinking, I was like, I don't think that's a good idea. So found myself being a day hand, basically. So now we're making apparel, and I love every second of it. I do say that as a joke. I do love it. Taking my art and making apparel. We did recently in the last year have a crew neck that absolutely blew up on TikTok. It's the cowpunk crew neck. I drew it right here. It's the Vans with the spurs on it. And it spread like wildfire all over TikTok. I think we sold over 350 last year, and there was like 100 or so sold so far this year. And that's cool because there's times that I see people out. I was at the mate show. Was it like 2 months ago?
Mm-hmm.
I seen a few 2-gun hats, and they just walked right by me. And I say that because when I started, I was selling to buddies, and I was selling to people I knew. Everybody knew who I was when they bought a 2-gun hat, and it's a really cool factor seeing it out and being that people actually buy it and wear it because they think the designs are really cool. And that was not a made it moment, but almost.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I would have stopped and be like, hey, do you know who made that hat?
I always want to, but it almost feels like weird because where do you go from that? Hey, I made that. Cool. And then you're just like, all right, see ya.
I didn't think about that. I didn't think about the next step, but
yeah, how do you follow on from that? Because I one thing that I strive to be is humble as possibly can. I don't want to be that guy on social media that's like, oh, look at me, look what I built. I always try and be like humble about it. I make cool stuff. I do understand that I make cool stuff and quality stuff. That's how we've gotten so far. But as far as like toot my own horn, I'm terrible at it.
That's fair. So you're pretty open to, before you really got going into business, you kind of struggled with some alcohol problems.
Yeah, very, very much so. It definitely started. Well, I'd say it started before the Marine Corps. I was a punk kid, getting into trouble, smoking, drinking, whatever you get your hands on. That's how I ended up in the Marine Corps. You don't just end up in the Marine Corps because you're like, I want to be a Marine. Well, most of the time it's because you need to go to the Marine Corps. And that's what happened in the Marine Corps. It did kind of get worse. That's kind of how it goes in the military. Got out, and we can touch on this later, but like the transition out of the military is very difficult for a lot of people. It was for me. Things got a lot worse after that. And because you're lost. You go from very structured in the military to nothing at all. Nobody tells you when to wake up. Yes, you have a job. You got to be there at 7 or whatnot. But nobody tells you what not to do and what to do. So you lose that. And a lot of people struggle. It's a very, very big problem in this country. And a lot of us vets stick together. It's something that we strive to do is stick together through that. But it snowballed. The bad snowballs just as much as the good. So the bad snowballed, and it got really out of hand. Lost friends, lost family over it. And November of last year, I was like, we were in the dumps. Before we went full time with this stuff, it was bad. We had no money, nothing, zero. We actually had a lot of negative, if we're being honest about it. I was like, we got to make a change. I really want to go full time with this, and if I'm going to go full time with this, what we do and how much I drink right now is not going to benefit starting a business from zero at all. So this business needed my full attention and my full focus. And it started out almost like, because we were at zero and we had to tighten our pockets big time when we did this. So alcohol is expensive. Cigarettes are expensive, all that. Everything's expensive. So it started out like, well, I'll go sober, not only for the focus, but we'll save a lot of money. We won't go to the bar, all this and that. And then, I'm 6 months in and I don't even think about it. It just, you feel amazing. I just can't stress it enough. And it's not for everybody. Not everybody needs to go sober, but for me, I needed to go sober. And for people that are watching that know me, they understand where I'm coming from with that. But,
so did you just quit cold turkey? You just are like, I'm done, and that was it?
Yeah, I surprised the crap out of a lot of people with that. It was rough. The first couple of weeks, they were definitely rough. I couldn't go to a bar. Like I couldn't just go. If somebody's going to a bar, I gotta go home. Like I can't be there, or else we'll go. Because I've tried many times before. I've tried this. Didn't get far. It would be like 2 weeks, and they're like, "You coming out?" And it's like, "Yeah, screw it." So it takes dedication. It really does, because it's not easy. Cold turkey, especially how I did it, is not easy. And yeah, it was cold turkey. And I still do the Zins. I chewed for years, and I got switched over to Zins. And my wife will joke that she will not let me quit Zins. The nicotine is almost as bad as the alcohol.
Yeah.
She'll joke. She said, I don't want him to quit Zins. One stepping stone at a time.
Yeah. That's cool. What did you notice start shifting? Like, what were some I shouldn't say hard things. What were some challenges you faced when you did quit drinking outside of just the fact of getting over the drinking itself? I mean, you kind of mentioned losing some friends.
Other people. Yep. Other people. Your group and who you surround yourself with is the biggest part of your life. Some people don't understand that. They'll be friends with somebody just because they've been friends with them for 5-6 years. Those people, that friend might not be a very good influence on you, and you don't even realize that. And I don't say that as a personal shot at anybody, but I wish I had a better quote. It's just we're on the fly here, so I don't have the better quote. There is a better quote that I do live by, and it's just about surrounding yourself with the right people. And that was not just about being sober, but like as far as business goes, who you surround yourself with is a very large influence on your life, and some people don't realize that.
Yeah.
But that was definitely a big one. Was lack of better terms, trying to keep this PG, but you get called when you stop going to the bar by other people that you think are your friends.
Yeah. I relate. I'm pretty open about this. I quit drinking last year, January 2025, and I called it like my shedding season, because it was insane to me, just the people that quit calling. I didn't have stupid drunk stories to tell them anymore. Like, I wasn't the entertainment for my friends. And I was like, oh man,
well,
there's not very many people hitting me up anymore.
I guess that's a good point though, too, is about the stories and the being an entertainer. I was 100% the kid that had the desk outside in the hallway in school. So like, that's why I said earlier, people that do know me personally, it was a better thing to go sober. I was the entertainer. I was I don't know, I wouldn't say try to be center of attention, but I would definitely try and have a really good time. And that does suck because there is some very good stories that aren't necessarily bad that I could share from those times. But I guess it's all about how your perspective is. If a drunk story while backroading is funny to you, then you've either done it or not, or you're like, degenerate. Why would you do that? So I mean, it's all about your perspective on stuff like that. And because I wouldn't knock anybody that, you know, told me a drunk story. You know, my mindset might have changed, but I'm not judgmental towards people that do drink still. Like, that's also a big one, because if you are sober, you might make it worse for yourself if you are judgmental towards people that are drinking, that don't actually have a problem, and they might be a little bit more, they might give you a little bit more pushback on you going sober if you are like that. So I think that's an important one though too, because then that would make your journey a little bit harder, because they're giving you pushback because, well, honestly, you're giving them pushback, you know, for continuing to drink, and that's their own, you know, their own choice.
Definitely. Can't throw stones from a glass house.
Yep, absolutely.
What were some of the pros of not drinking, of getting sober, that you experienced?
Well, I think the biggest pros is not just the focus, and it's not just the money. I feel great. I wake up every morning. I definitely wake up a little bit later than I used to on a daily basis. I used to get up at 5:36 every morning, maybe even more earlier if it was Kevin or what have you. But I wake up feeling great. I wake up feeling motivated. You know, you get that drogginess. You know, you have a night out of the bar. You don't wake up till noon on a Saturday. Well, you just miss half the day, and I feel like an old timer saying that right there. Miss half the day. How many times I've heard that. But I definitely had some stomach issues, you know, some gut issues from the, you know, the heavy drinking and all that. And well, I'm fine now. I mean, relatively speaking, unless I eat some bad Mexican food. I mean, it goes pretty well. And the health part is probably the biggest. I mean, we want to watch our kids grow old. We want to be out there, you know, throwing a football with your grandkids even. You know, it's about the health. I mean, all the other ones that come along, the money, the focus, the more drive. I mean, those are small things comparative to the health benefits of not drinking or cutting back. A lot of people should cut back. They don't have to quit. And I think that's a big one, because soberness is kind of getting pushed in our face a little bit. And I don't know if that's relatively a good thing, because that might make people not want to. I think some people just need to cut back a little bit. You know, you can, it's like people that get addicted to Diet Coke. I mean, if you drink 20 Diet Cokes in a day, it's not good for you either. Yeah. So some people should, you know, cut back. And that's something that I've seen. You know, there's a lot of influencers that are like preaching the sober, which they should. I think it's a great thing, but not everyone needs to be sober though too. And I think that's an important thing to mention, because of that whole stigma of don't push it in my face kind of thing.
Yeah. I had kind of mentioned to you the No Booze branding mission that we had on the podcast before. And I love their goal is just to commit one day. Like they're like, one day, do one day, see how you feel. Like one branding you go to this season where you don't get drunk. Like you tie a purple scarf to your horn or whatever, you wear it, and like you're committing one day. And I think that in itself is so powerful. Like you said, like we're not trying to be like, hey, you need to quit cold turkey tomorrow. Maybe if you wanted to, cool, awesome, good for you. But maybe you just drink one instead of 10 every night.
And I actually, because this was the first year branding, and I've seen a lot of old friends, so a lot of people I haven't seen since last year. And they kind of had the same standpoint. Like, we're trying to cut back. We're definitely not drinking as much. We're definitely seeing the light, a little bit. And I love that. Even if you have 2 less beers on a Friday night, that's a win. If you're cutting back, that's a win. You take the small wins and run with them. But I don't think I'd tie a purple scarf to the horn, but then you get labeled.
Yeah.
You just let a calf by, and then you're adding a target to your back.
Yeah,
there's a fly under the radar kind of guy. No bright colors while working cows. Especially if they can't see your face, and everybody usually kind of wears the same stuff. Yeah, you're definitely unidentifiable if you let a calf by or something. It's less flags thrown at you.
Less flags. Yeah, there's that too. That's funny. So let's talk more about Two Gun.
Yeah.
How, you just decided to start designing logos just for fun and then decided to slap it on a hat one day?
Now it's I definitely won't say that I'm not an artistic person. I've kind of always been artistic. I did photography a little bit growing up. I definitely it interests me with photography and art. I mean, I've loved art forever, especially Western art. It definitely intrigues me.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a little bit of a driving force. I was like, well, how do I make money doing this? How do I turn art into a profitable business?
Mm-hmm.
And well, I mean, making hats. I mean, that was kind of the easiest foot in the door on all this, was making hats. At the time I had my hat press. So I'd buy the patches, buy the blank hats, and press them. That was the first thing I did.
Mm-hmm.
So there it was in my double wide trailer. I had a roommate at the time, and I can't remember if I was doing it on the kitchen table or I think it was a table in the living room. And was it a double wide? Either way, either a double wide. It wasn't big. It was starting a hat company in your living room is not that feasible. And I did that for about 2 years. This was the time that I was heavy drinking and working all the time. So there wasn't a whole lot of time to think about what was next and think about what, taking this to the next level. I never really even did think about that until last year. And I can't really pinpoint where, but I think I had gotten a little bit time off where we had some early days, and I just sat down and I just started doodling. I do freehand draw some stuff, just don't have the time nowadays, but I was like, dang, I could put these on t-shirts and crew necks, and boom, the crew neck thing. And I started on TikTok, started selling on TikTok Live and just TikTok in general. I've since kind of moved away from that, and it just blew up. It was 16 hat orders over a weekend of going live. And I was like, I think I might have something here that I could run with. And last year, about November, I was like, well, why don't I just bring it under one roof? Because at the same time, I started getting into embroidered hats, and I was having other people make them. And I wouldn't say that they were price gouging. They were a little bit, but it's pricey. There's not a lot of meat left on the bone if you don't make it in-house.
Yeah.
Especially when you start to wholesale to stores. So I took a big risk and bought this 8,000. The first one was 7,000. They've since raised their prices, but I was like, at the time, $7,000 was a lot of freaking money to me. And I was like, this is a big gamble. I mean, bought the machine, and one of my good buddies is like, hey, you make me some hats for my welding business? I was like, yeah, sure. And the rest was history. One after the other, and not just making the Two Gun brand, but making other people's. We've since turned into a professional branding company. we got the sewing machine, we got the post bed, we sew patches on hats, we press patches on hats. We outsource pretty much all of our patchwork except for the embroidered patches themselves, because we don't have a marrow machine, which for those that don't know, it's the fancy border around the patches. We don't have that yet, so we outsource a lot of the patches, but we still all finished products, no matter what happens, regardless if we farm it out or what, it still comes here and QC's here, and whether we ship it out from here or finish it off, press the patches or whatever, leaves this shop. And I think that was a huge it's a huge selling point, because not only is it a small business, but our quality control is very high being under this roof. I can control the quality with the embroidery. I mean, these things are giant headaches. By no means is any part of this business that I thought was going to be relatively easy can be a complete nightmare. And there's a lot of nights that it's 2-3 o'clock in the morning and you're like, why did I do this? Why did I think making hats is a great idea? But all in all, it comes out to a great experience. And like I said, suck it, tooting my own horn, but a lot of people do come to me and come back after they get their stuff and they're like, we've never had embroidered hats or hats in general look this good. And a lot of it has to do with choosing the right hat, choosing the right thread color. Because a lot of people will come to me and be like, well, I don't know. I like what you do. I see what you do. I see it all over Facebook and Instagram, and I like what you do, but I don't have the mindset, or I don't have the intel on what makes a really good hat. So I'm going to give you my logo and you're going to do the rest of it. I said, cool. Yeah. And most of the time it works out pretty good like that. And I was talking to Clayton, and I think it takes a cowboy to know what a cowboy will wear. And there is some disconnect, because it's almost taboo for a cowboy to start embroidering hats. A lot of these, and I don't like to knock any other, because never burn bridges, but a lot of these shops, they just don't know. They just don't know our industry and our trends and what people want to wear. And they make great products, but the finished product is not as great because they don't know what we like to wear, because they may or may not be in our industry. And I think that has been a big driving force of our rapid growth as well.
Very cool. What have been some of the other hurdles you've had to face with the company itself that you weren't aware of?
I got a list about this long. Just the other night, we recently just started sewing patches on hats, and I wouldn't say I'm the handiest guy on this planet. By far, I'm not the handiest guy on this planet, but I have the will to figure it out. I will be out there until I get it figured out. I don't have much quit in me, and it takes a lot of that doing this. I just could not figure this thing out. Like I couldn't even sew my jeans back together. My grandmother was sewing my jeans back together, because everyone that's probably watching this understands that jeans nowadays, they rip so easy. So I couldn't even sew my own jeans back together. And here I am trying to freaking run a 15 needle embroidery machine. And then I don't know. It was a disaster. I ended up getting it figured out. But I bought this machine. I barely know how to turn it on. So it was YouTube university time, and watched a lot of videos and got it figured out. And there's been a lot of hurdles in that aspect of, I was a blue collar guy. I mean, now I'm sewing. I catch some jokes sometimes. I catch a lot of jokes. All in good fun. Nobody really, everybody's got their haters. I hate that word. You do have your doubters. But everyone with good intention gives me They call me the seamstress sometimes.
The
So
seamstress.
there I am sewing away in my shop, and everybody's out in the cold and the snow.
If this episode resonates with you and you're looking for others that are similar, I would recommend checking out episode 20, Redeemed and Rebuilt, with my good friend Jaylene Scott. Episode 27, No Booze Branding, From Heartbreak to a Life-Saving Mission. And as always, I recommend episode 3, Following Your Calling from God, with Pastor Scott Mathis. All of these are great examples that it's never too late to make a choice that can change your life.
And here I am. So I'm glad I stumbled upon that one. Obviously I started with nothing. So we didn't have a lot of money, and we leased this place, and we started in the bunkhouse, and it was a very old bunkhouse, and everything was constantly dirty. We'd have to lint roll everything all the time. And no matter how much we cleaned it, the walls definitely would leak dirt all the time. So we moved in here. Well, as you can tell, it's insulated now, but we moved into the garage, I'd say December. I think it was December timeframe, maybe November. And we had a cold snap come through. So I went and bought that thing right there. Yeah, that was rough. So my first bill, I think the December Northwest Energy bill was $920 of running, trying to keep it above freezing in here, because it would mess with these machines pretty bad if you don't keep it climate controlled. And January was like 860, and the end of January I was like, I can't. This is not going to work. Like, my neighbor came over and was like, we don't even pay that for the feedlot. You need to get this figured out. And I was like, yeah, I know. It's but to insulate this, which is, it's not ours. So we would be eating that money. It'd be like $3,000. And I was like, I can't really eat that when we don't really know the future of how long we're going to lease this place. And very graciously, a buddy of mine just down the road, his dad, they just finished they're finishing their shop. There's a living area under there, and they had a bunch of leftover insulation. He said, you buy the plastic, I'll bring my crew over, his sons, and he runs a construction crew. We'll put it up for free. I know you're struggling. I know how it is to start a business from nothing. I understand. So we brought him over. You don't realize how much shit you have until it's in the middle of the shop. And put all this plastic up, and I think the month of February, it was like mid-February by the time we got all this figured out and got it going. March was like $250.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, man, I just threw away. It came out to about $2,100 in power bill in like 4 months. So it was a big hit, and that almost sank us. I'm not even gonna, lie about that. That almost sank us. That at that time, I was like, we can't keep doing this. Like, you gotta sell a lot of hats to make up for a $900 electric bill.
Yeah.
So, but thankfully we worked through that, and it all ironed out. And yeah, and it goes back to your circle. I'm very gracious of Dean Welch to do that. And, he's a great guy. They're also, they were ranchers in Bozeman, then they moved over this way. And when Bozeman became California. So your circle is very important. We would be in one heck of a pickle still if it wasn't for them. For him having that, graciously donating basically all this labor, and they were going to throw the insulation away, yes, but he still, had the notion of giving it to us and helping us put it up. And it's all about that circle. I mean, this entirety has been all in who you know. I mean, this world kind of runs on, it's all in who you know. You got to have the work behind it, but connections go a very long way.
Yeah. Networking is huge in business or Even just in your personal life, when you're gonna have
personal life, everybody goes through their lows, and if you have a good network and you're a good person and you're not a POS, people are going to help you. And I think that there's a lot of divide right now in this country, and I don't think that's all too true. I think if you have a really good community, you're going to be all right. We're all going to make it through together. Nobody's going to let you go starving if you're a good person.
Yeah. I agree. Kind of goes back to even just doing good business, like being a good person in business gets you more business.
There's been a lot of times that I could have let some stuff slide out the door and in hopes that it wouldn't come back on me. Maybe I can move a little bit. So that you kind of see that box right there thing. Mm-hmm. Right there. It's got about 350 messed up hats and failures in it. I think that's nothing leaves a shop less than perfect. And that comes back tenfold. I mean, there's probably $2,000 worth of retail value of hats in there. Mm-hmm. That has come back tenfold. Being a good person, doing good business, and making sure that things are done right has come back every time. Mm-hmm. Making sure that things are done right and you don't try and get one up on somebody. Being honest sucks at first. It's a hard pill to swallow when you're like, obviously you always want to do the right thing, and it's hard sometimes. It's like, oh, this one's gonna sting a little bit, but you have to. There's no other way. People might not say anything, but they're gonna know.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say that I've seen it, but I think it does. It happens a lot in business. People think that they're gonna get away with it, and they might think they got away with it, but they didn't. People know.
Yeah.
Doing the honest thing is by far the best route to go. It's gonna sting, but the sting goes away, and it'd be all right in the end.
Mm-hmm. I feel like you never know. Like if you cut a corner now, you don't know when it's gonna come back to bite you in the ass in the long run.
Well, that was kind of instilled in me growing up is one, never burn bridges. You never know when you have to cross that bridge again. And I obviously didn't. I'm not perfect. I didn't follow that, especially in my early 20s, late teens. Didn't follow that. Went against what I was raised on. And I'm very admittedly kind of hard-headed, and I just have to figure things out the hard way for myself. And I'll tell you what, there was a lot of hard lessons, especially when we first did this, that I just had to learn the hard way.
Mm-hmm. If you could go back and do things different, if you could, what would you do different?
Not a single thing.
Nothing.
I think every bump in the road and every cliff that I've jumped off of was for a reason. It all led me here. So going back to the drinking thing, I was a very regretful drinker. Very regretful drinker. I'd wake up the next morning like, oh, I regret everything I did last night. And I knew I had to get out of that. I had to get out of the whole regret thing. Regret will eat you away. And I've come to terms with myself. I think not only you have to get right with the Lord, but you got to get right with yourself. You gotta get right with yourself. The regret will eat you alive. And my mindset nowadays is I've gotten to this point some way or another, whether the good or the bad, and I've ended up here. And now we just have to focus on moving forward. And as long as you learn from that bad and move forward, then you're on the right track. From everything that I watch, all the podcasts, all the motivational speakers, that was the biggest thing I had to change. You cannot regret doing something. Mm-hmm. You regret something doing it if you knowingly knew it was bad before you did it. Yes, you can regret that, but you just gotta, that was a big turning point.
Yeah. There's a lot of power in that, because if you really think back, like you're saying, if you had done anything different, you don't know if it would have shaped you to be somebody else, or would have taught you a different skill set, or would have gave you a different perspective on life. So there's a lot of power in that.
I'll find myself doing that. Like, man, if I wouldn't have done that dumb shit 3 years ago, where would I be? And I guess it's like, knock it off. I mean, if I wouldn't have done that, then shoot, I might not even have been sober right now. I might not even have been a business owner right now. So it's just like, you got to knock that off. You got to tell yourself to know everything happens for a reason. That's what I was raised on, was everything leads you to the path you're on now.
Mm-hmm. That was a good one. That was good. I'm like, oh, I'm going to take note of that.
I'm a yapper, but and I think at one point on that, you saying that, I'm in this position because I made so many mistakes. Mm-hmm. I said this in a video that got actually a little bit of traction a couple weeks ago. I'm no perfect man by any means, and I've messed up many times, but those were all trials of where I'm at now, and I've learned from those trials. And there's a lot of people that still to this day would judge me on the stuff that I did years ago. Screw them. I mean, honestly, screw them, because like, what do you think? You're better? You think you're more perfect? There's nobody perfect out there. We all make mistakes, and we all make mistakes. And some people are a little bit worse at learning from them and not repeating those mistakes. Mm-hmm. I think that's the biggest one. But yeah, judge. You're gonna get judged. You're gonna get judged regardless. So let them judge and do what makes you happy. You know what matters the most to me is when I get to come home. Well, I'm always home, but coming home to a loving, healthy family, and we got food on the table, and the house is warm, especially here in Montana. I mean, that's all that matters to me. Mm-hmm. The time with my kids is paramount to me. There's nothing else that matters more in my life. I could have all the fancy trucks in the world. You could have all the fancy living quarter bloomers, all that fancy stuff. I mean, you can have all that stuff, but what matters is a healthy, loving family. So that's what you have to focus on. And I definitely struggle with that to this day. I mean, you got to have work-life. Everyone says work-life balance. It's something I don't think anybody has figured out, but you got to have the time. You got to make the time. Mm-hmm. And I've had a lot of good people, good mentors tell me that. And they say their biggest regret, and successful mentors that have, built businesses and built big cattle herds. They're like, one thing that I regret is the time with my family that I didn't spend, that I spent either out in the pasture or in the shop or on the phone. That's the biggest thing that everybody regrets, is not spending time with the family. Mm-hmm. You can have the fancy, nice stuff, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah. We touched base on this before we started recording, just showing up genuine too in today's age, being able to be like, yes, I made these mistakes, but also these were the outcomes of these mistakes. And so I'm going to continue going out and doing what I think is right and figuring it out. And there's a lot, people relate to that a lot, because in today's social media and everything else, it's hard to
the highlight reel.
Yeah.
Everybody's life. Mm-hmm. Real quick story on that. So we're actually going to I'm buying a wrecked pickup because I am the biggest cheap ass on this planet. And that's how I've been able to get to this point. And we're going to make a video series out of it. And the reason I say this is because a lot of times people see these successful businesses on Instagram or Facebook, and it's always like, look at my brand new pickup. Look at my brand new house. And it's like, it doesn't have to be like that. You don't have to live up to that standard. You don't need a fancy new pickup. You don't need this fancy old house. And it's a problem in this country right now is everybody, where they used to call it keeping up with the Joneses. You don't have to be like that. It's somebody else's highlight reel. You don't have the full story on it. You know, they could be funded. They could be very much so funded, you know, that not just from their hard work. So the highlight reel just really gets under my skin because people look at me and they're like, man, you're so successful now. It's just crazy. I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I've definitely accomplished a lot in the last, year or so, but I mean, I try to be real. I tried to be real on social media. I try to not make it seem like it's something that's not. And it's like you said, the genuine content is thankfully really taking over social media right now. We're kind of seeing a little bit of a switch back to like the raw, genuine people just talking about stuff, talking about problems, talking about stuff that they can help people on, to be inspirational. And I didn't have this mindset until like a year ago when I started gaining a little traction. I'm like, I'm in the eye of a lot of people. I need to be on the right track and lead other people on the right track. Is the entirety of, like you said, there's been a switch in social media. The entirety of like my early 20s, social media was like Lambos and fancy pickups. And you got, like I said, the bloomer trailers. You see people at ropings and they get out of their bloomer and they got all this fancy stuff and fancy clothes. And that's how social media was. So we were all trained to, it's almost like we had to have that. We wanted it because it was in our face and right in front of us. You're like, oh man, jealousy took over. And then all of a sudden, then you're so deep into debt that you're like, was this even worth it? And probably not, because it's really not. The fancy stuff is not worth it. And it goes back to the genuine content, the genuine. I wish there was more of it. You don't need to be living a life that you don't need to live, that other people think is what they need to live. It is, that stuff would be nice. It sure would be. But at what cost does it come at?
Yeah. That truly is the biggest reason I started this podcast, because when I still owned the horse sales platform, and, yes, that was very good to me. Like, we grew a big network. Like, there was a lot of great things, and that company was very successful. But there were a lot of days I was living by myself. I was single for 5 years. I was paying all of my own bills with the money that came from this company. And there were still days where I didn't eat for days because I literally did not have food. I didn't have money to buy food. Like, my pickup was running. Like, I was hoping a quarter of a tank would get me the rest of the week. Like, there were still those moments that, I tried to be as transparent as possible, but there's a lot of moments that don't get shared like that. And I had so many people that I knew, because like I didn't grow up we had horses, but you didn't make money on horses. Like, everyone told me that you can't make money in the horse industry. And you can, you find your niche and you can, but I didn't have a leg up. Like, I started from ground zero when I started that company. And so many people would come to me and be like, man, I think this is so cool you're doing this. I can't because of this. And I'm like, no, I went through the same thing last year. Like, you can too. And that's my biggest goal with this podcast, is to share the backside of this, because we're all truly struggling. It's not always a highlight reel. There's a lot of great moments, and sometimes that's what you get. This little moment of sunshine is what carries you through a pile of crap.
I'm glad you touched on this, because I almost forgot to mention this. And this is a really important story that I like to tell. I've told it in YouTube videos that I've made. So I had quit for a while. I went and tried to chase money. I tried to be a crane operator at one point. And I worked for a company out of Billings, and we went and traveled around to wind towers. Well, the guy in charge of all, like the head honcho, we were riding back from a job site one time. And this was 2 years ago. So Two Gun really wasn't anything at the time. We were just gotten into stores, and he was like, what are you going to do? Make money selling hats? You going to live off of that? you're stupid, and a lot of other stuff that would keep off the podcast, but it lit a fire under me. I ended up quitting and then getting fired the same day from that job. And it lit a fire under me. And I think that was a real good turning point. That was one of the good turning points. It was like, oh, so he's either jealous that you can make money on the internet and not have to show up to work at 5 o'clock every morning, or he's just a grumpy, you know what. So
yeah,
that lit a fire under me. And I still remember that to this day. I mean, that was 2 years ago. A lot of stuff has happened in 2 years, but that stuck with me. I mean, there was a lot of other stuff said, and there's the day that I quit, I put in my 2 weeks, got fired, whatever. He was like, you're going to amount to nothing, and 2 Guns never going to be anything. And I was like, oh, you bet. You bet. And it lit a fire in me. And it's almost like you need that. It's almost like you need to hear things like that. Because if you're not being doubted, there better be a really good reason why you're doing this. There better be a really good motivation behind it. Other than, you know that people are doubting you.
Yeah. I think that's one of those things. I can't remember what the quote is, but they're gonna question you until they see it happen. Something along those lines.
Man,
but
I think I seen it on the Wealthy Cowboy show not long ago. He said something along those lines.
Yeah.
It's like, they're gonna doubt you until you make it happen, and then they're gonna
ask how you did it.
Yeah, ask how you did it.
Yeah. I kind of have to laugh because when I started my online horse sales company, I mean, I was living just outside of Billings, outside of the biggest horse sale and everybody was like, you can't do that. Yeah, that's will never work, blah, blah, blah. And for years, even when it was working, I was getting so much hate. But what I think is so hilarious is I built that company from nothing. I made it something, like sold it on good terms, sold it at, like every single year, successful, like definite growth. And when I sold it and I told everyone I'm going to focus on this podcast, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, they're like, how do you make money on a podcast? And I'm like, oh, I haven't yet. And like, it's funny the shift though, because everybody that told me I couldn't build the horse sales platform, once I did it and then sold to do something, which I think is crazier than building horse sales platform to make money. They're like, how are you going to do that? That's so cool. And I'm like, I don't know yet. I'm going to figure it out though.
You got to be good at figuring it out. You have to. You have to be good at figuring it out. And obviously you have. I mean, you've gone through the trials and tribulations of trying to build a social media platform. It's not easy. People, no. Oh man. And especially in this industry, in the agriculture, equine, just the Western culture, it's very taboo to do social media for work or any sort of thing other than you're not going to run cows. Why would you do that?
Yeah.
Well, there's other ways inside of the Western culture to make money. And I'm going to tell you right now, I ain't spending $11,000 an acre for ground. I'm going to tell you that right now. Even once I make the money, I am not, chance of touching that. That's kind of where Montana's at right now. Yeah.
We are buying a place down here and it's insane in Arizona. It's crazy.
But well, that's the summer Montana.
It is literally. I've met so many people from Montana down here that I think I've met more Montana people in Arizona than I did.
Better than they're actually from Arizona. I mean, don't get me wrong. We get to a certain point, you will catch us in Arizona in the winter.
It's the place to be. I love it down here, but
I did spend some time in Arizona. I've off and on. I've been in Arizona. I do love it, but I hate the heat. Anything above 80 degrees, I am pissed. Everybody that knows me personally knows that. They're like, they just don't want to be around me in the summer. Like August. Yeah, just don't even talk to me. Just don't even bother because I am hot and irritated. And I could not do the summers in Arizona at all.
I'm very thankful that outside of like the horses we have coming up, I get to work inside like in the afternoons when it's hot. So
I
hopefully
think the last time I flew to Arizona, I landed in Phoenix and it was snowing here. And I was underdressed here because I knew where I was going. I got off the plane at Phoenix and it was 105. And I was like, my buddy's lucky that he's getting married this weekend because I'd be getting on another plane and going home if it wasn't for his wedding.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So
no, go ahead. Go ahead. You're leading this thing. I'm a yapper. Don't mind me.
You can yap away. What are some of your next goals for Two Gun?
Next goals. Well,
if you can share them.
Yeah, I don't want to share too much because this whole, I think an important note, manufacturers. It is the most gate-kept thing on this planet. You think being a cowboy is gate-kept? Woo! Talk about manufacturers, that's gate-kept. We do have our own quarter zips. They may or may not be quarter snaps. They will be here by next fall. We're trying to do our own vest and our own hoodies. We're trying to get away from decorating. So if you don't understand, we're trying to get away from buying blanks and just throwing our logo on it.
Mm-hmm.
We've done that up to this point, and we've kind of plateaued a little bit. So we're trying to take what we have and fine tune it into our own stuff. Like I said, not trying to give too much away because this is also very cutthroat.
Mm-hmm.
You release too much information, someone's going to do it before you.
Yeah.
Because the same manufacturer that we use does some other people's stuff in this industry, and it wouldn't really create problems, but they have used that manufacturer for a lot longer than I have, and they can jump the line very quickly. They can throw a little bit more money at them than I can, and they will jump the line, and they will do it before you. It's a very cutthroat industry, and especially since a lot of these bigger brands, I wanted to touch on this too. A lot of the bigger brands are not owned by cowboys. They're not owned by anybody that is even seeing a cow.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of people in that upper echelon of those companies that they're just there for a return. They're in there for return on investment. That's all they're there for. So we're starting to see a little bit of the whole cutting costs, which means AI is creeping in a little bit, and there's people are noticing. A lot of the people that I know and talk to, they're starting to notice a lot of these larger brands are getting away from the customer. I mean, there is a little bit of a gap, and I'm not the only one doing this. There's other people doing exactly what I'm doing, and they're having just as much success as I am, because I think a lot of us are waking up to, who are we giving them $40 for a hat? Who are we even giving that to?
Yeah.
So that has been a name to the face to the brand is very important in my opinion. People want to know where their money's going, and it also comes back to, they come to Two Gun because it's me. They know me. They've either seen me or they know me, and they want to give me their money instead of someone they have no idea who they are. So goes back to the organic content as well. If you are in front of the camera, which has been very difficult because I wasn't born to just talk in front of a camera just like this. This has been a learned trait of this. I'm stuffing a lot of things in at once, but let's go back to the manufacturers. So we do have a lot of manufacturing stuff coming in the fall and the winter, and we're focusing on, since we do everything here, finished products. We're going to be offering our finished products, our finished blanks, to people put their logos on, which I think is going to be great because I can give them a better deal. And they can support me as a whole. And there's nothing I love, because I would love to give back as well. And we try and give back as much as we can. Keeping it in the industry, because of what anything that I sub out, I try to give to other people that are either doing what I'm doing or, well, yeah, basically that. I try and sub out anything that I do to other small guys that are doing really good quality stuff that are trying to do what I'm doing. It keeps the whole corporate BS out of it. You know, it's insane. But so we were on that, and then we went to organic content. Where was I?
Like branding yourself, essentially. Organic content.
That's a big one. Yeah, self-branding is like, I mean, I drop shit for people that have self-branded themselves. So the average hired man, Turner Kincaid, super cool guy, has branded himself, makes really great Instagram reels, and he's a very hardworking hired man that has self-branded himself. And we're kind of in that era. There's a lot of people doing it, and I think it's great because, you know, people like Turner can still work at the ranch, still have, you know, feed their family, but then they're making some stuff on the side that they enjoy doing. Him in particular, I know for a fact he enjoys making videos. He enjoys being inspirational to people, which he is. And he's just another voice in our industry. And we need as many voices in this industry as we can. There's a lot of people gunning. A lot of people either see a cash grab or they just don't like what we do. Yeah, I lost that. We were talking about something else, but I lost it. The life of being a yapper happens.
What is some advice you would give other people who might be struggling with alcohol or are considering quitting? What's some advice you would give somebody in that kind of situation?
I don't like to be repetitive, but I would say the biggest thing is not listening to other people. They don't go home to your family every night. You're the one that has to go answer to your kids and your wife of either why you got too drunk or why you did this because you were drunk. The people that are telling you to keep drinking and make those bad decisions don't have to go answer to your kids. They don't have to go answer to your wife of why you did that. That's a big one. Is they're going to talk. They're going to say whatever about you. You got to ignore that. The biggest advice is you have to do what's best for your family. Your family eats first, no matter what. And if you're single, then I don't know if I really have great advice for if you're single, because you also have to experience that. You know, people like me, very hard-headed. I had to learn from the mistakes. You know, how many people tell me you need to quit drinking so much, this and that, and I didn't pay no attention to them. It was the hard lessons and the hard lessons. I mean, absolutely changed this whole thing. No matter what anybody said to me, no matter what happened, it wasn't going to change what I was doing until I learned for myself. Until it's like self-sabotage, basically. You self-sabotage yourself to the point where, like, oh, and then you wake up and you're like, all right, I think I've learned my lesson this time. And screw what they have to say. With anything, not just alcohol, with anything. If you think it's best for your family and your life and the path that you want to be on, only you know what's best for you. Other people, they just like the highlight reel, they don't know everything in your life. They don't know what your bank account looks like. They don't know what payments you have. They don't know what your struggles are that you don't talk about. So only you know what's best for you. So that's why it's very important. I mean, I get messages all the time because we have reached that point where I do have a quite a bit of reach with social media, and they're like, well, I'm struggling with this. And it's like, cut the bad out of your life and the good will shine.
That's very good.
That's my best advice. Because for if you're hard-headed like me, good luck. You're just gonna have to learn from the mistakes and hopefully make the change that you need to make from those mistakes.
What advice would you give people wanting to start a business, other than don't listen to other people?
Just don't. No, I'm just kidding. It has its perks, and that's also something that's pushed really hard on social media right now. Not everyone is built for this. Not everyone has the stomach to stomach a lot of this stuff. Even I don't. And you just got to power through it. There's going to be hurdles that you didn't even think about. It's not built for everyone at all. If your desk was out in the hallway in school, you're probably built for entrepreneurship. With all the friends that I have that own businesses, it's kind of the same story. Like, life was not good, and they decided to make a change from all the hardships and the hard lessons they made, and now they're an entrepreneur and they're doing good at it. Nobody's telling me to wake up every morning. Maybe my wife, she tells me to get the hell out of the bed, but there's nobody here to hold my hand at all. There's some people to give me advice if I ask. There's some people I can call. Having good mentors is a very good part of this. And even your mentors, the people that you look up to, they don't have all the answers either. They've just gotten really good at figuring it out. Anybody can do this. And yes and no, because there's a lot of artistic side of things and like instinct type of stuff with what I do that I don't see in other people. It was almost like when we were welding, you could tell if somebody was going to be good at welding or not. You could weld for 20 years and still not be good at welding. It's just stuff like that. It isn't really stuff that you can learn, but relatively speaking, anybody can do what I'm doing. It's not that hard to get into. It's keeping going is what's hard. It's just like, you can make a whole bunch of money in the world. It's not hard to make money at all. It's keeping it. That's the problem. Money. It's and maybe that's just me. I've always had we'll scratch that one. I could sell pretty good. I'm really good at selling, so making money is not hard. It's all the other things that come along with it. Things are going to go wrong. If you're the type of person that just shuts down and says screw it, this is not you. You should probably not own a business.
Yeah.
There's things that are going to go wrong every single day. And guess who they look to, especially when you start getting employees? Who do they turn to?
Right.
Yeah. So nobody will hold your hand. That's the best advice I can give you.
Well, that's pretty good advice. Very true.
It's difficult, because especially being in the military, I'm not good at giving advice that people want to hear. And maybe there's been times that I've had to have advice given to me in a not nice way that it really stuck. Yeah, I'm not the best at giving advice, because I'm gonna tell you how it is. Yeah, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it for you. I'm gonna tell you if I think it's not gonna work. I'm gonna tell you I don't think it's gonna work. I'm not gonna be like, oh well, if you try hard enough. No, you got to cut your losses sometimes. You know,
Mhm.
I've definitely been times with this stuff. It's like there's parts that I've decided to sub out because I figured out that the money is not going to work in my end, and it's
Mhm.
going to work better if my time is focused somewhere else rather than that particular thing. And the time thing, like I don't know why I always go blank on this word. Like getting employees. Like I always go.
Delegating?
Yeah, I don't know what. It's been like 3 times now I've got a break on like delegating. The word delegating just does not stick with my brain. But anyways, you got to get really good at delegating, and I was really bad at that. I still really am. We're trying to hire somebody right now, and I'm actually terrified of myself. And this is me being vulnerable, which people need to see this side. I'm not good at delegating because I love things being 100% quality, and I get I'm like a worry wart for sure. So like I'm worried that it's not going to turn out exactly how I did it.
Yeah.
So delegating, but you listen to any podcast, any person that has really made it, has built something really great. They get really good at delegating, and then like I've seen a few times they're like cloning yourself is a really big one too. Like when you have employees, you got to clone yourself. I was like, I don't know if anybody, I don't think they need another one of me in here.
Oh, that's funny. Well, shoot. Is there anything else you want to add? I feel like we covered.
We covered a lot.
You talked about having the right spouse before we started recording. I think that's a really strong topic. It could be its whole own episode. We'll try to keep that one kind of short.
Yeah, what? Because I'm sure we'll probably do this again. We'll probably revisit it. If anybody comments, we can touch on. It's just we could do this all over again. I got married pretty quickly in the Marine Corps, just like every other Marine does, and it obviously did not end well. And I'm not gonna say that it was the driving factor of where I ended up in this whole drinking thing, but it surely did not help at all. It surely did not help. And even Joe Rogan has touched on this before. Your spouse is your partner, and not just your partner in life, but partner in business too. You know, my wife, she helps out tremendously. You know, if I had to watch 3 kids in here and do this, we would not be where we're at today. You know, she does a lot behind the scenes that is very important. You mean between cooking meals and taking care of the kids and handling stuff that I really just don't have time for. It's extremely important. You know, who you choose to marry can either make or break you in your entire life. And I've seen it multiple times in my life. I still see it to this day. And it's very, very important, or it's going to get very expensive if you choose the wrong one. I'm going to tell you that from experience. It's going to get very expensive, but it's man, it's hard. I'm not going to say that, you know, finding the perfect wife is hard, and you're not going to find your perfect wife. I guess I'm not really in the 100% perfect position to give marriage advice, but you know, my wife now, we're in it for the long run. No matter what. I hope we are, because I ain't doing it again. I joke about that, but she's great. But it's just like the business. Yeah, I mean, there's problems that arise. You know, it's how you handle them is what really shines through. And nobody's perfect. It's an ongoing battle that you have to fight. But yeah, she's great too, and she helps me along anything I have, because obviously I'm a guy. I know what guys wear. Don't know what women wear. I'm really bad at that, and she's a very stylish woman herself, so she's very helpful on that side. So, and I think a lot of this we've been together so long that we don't even realize that that happens, because I'll go to her and I'm like, this lady ordered some hats and I have no idea like what's gonna look good, and she's right there to help me along the way. So it's almost like on autopilot, and it's stuff you don't even think about, that choosing the right spouse is very important. I'll preach that for a very long time. It's, man, yeah, good luck out there.
Well, I think with your spouse, like that's the one person that is in your corner. So are you going to have somebody in your corner that is lifting you up and encouraging you to keep going, or someone that's whispering like doubts? You know, that's what I think of when I think of like my husband. And we talk about this. He told our pastor the other day, he's like, it's crazy to be with someone like you're a team, and like how much faster we've gotten ahead, or I shouldn't even say getting ahead, but like the things we've been able to accomplish together versus alone. When, yeah, if you.
Oh man. So obviously we've had a lot of ups and downs with Two Gun. And this was before I quit my job to do Two Gun. Man, we hit one of the biggest lows. Man, I hadn't sold anything in like 2 weeks. And the Two Gun account was getting pretty low, almost even in the negatives, which has been in the negatives obviously before. Not by really our doing. It just, sometimes that happens. But I sat down, and I was like, I don't know if I want to do Two Gun anymore. I think we should just call it quits. And the Two Gun wasn't even like anything. We were just selling hats. I think we had crew necks at the time. We had hoodies. And I was like, I don't know if this is going to work. And if she wouldn't have said, you got to keep going, I mean, we're invested in this now. I mean, we would not be, there wouldn't be these sitting behind us. I wouldn't be sitting here talking. I mean, there's been times where it's just like, I'm not superhuman. I can't go through everything alone. So, she's pushed through the lows as well. And she's right there. She might get mad at me for this one, but we were tight pockets there for a long time. Very tight. She didn't get her hair done for like 2 years. And just it was like a couple weeks ago, she went, can I please just go get my hair done? I said, yes. Yes. Don't get me on the topic of women, how much it costs to do women's hair, but my God. I was like, yes, we're kind of coming out of the hole. We can splurge a little bit. We just got to be careful not to splurge a little too much, not get too comfortable with it. We're still not out of the trenches yet. We're doing all right. And there is a light at the end of the tunnel in this entire thing. If things go to plan, relatively, things obviously aren't going to go to plan. They never do. But right. We're moving in the right direction. You can go get your hair done. So she makes a lot of sacrifices too, along with me. Probably makes more sacrifices than I do, and I don't even realize it. So it goes back to finding the best one to fit your family's needs, because like I said, nobody's perfect. So you gotta build. It's just like building a business. You every day you wake up, you're building your relationship stronger. Whether that's, you could be going backwards. You probably shouldn't go backwards, but every day you're trying to build each other up.
Yeah, definitely. I know I heard it somewhere, like, you don't have to be perfect people. You just have to be perfect, like, for each other. Like, that's why I always say, Brian always tells me that I'm the perfect wife for him. And I'm like, oh, better be. I'll freaking beat you up.
Oh, yeah. Unfortunately, I think that you and my wife would get along too well. Yeah. Yeah, you have to be perfect for each other, for sure. Yeah, she kicks me. It's perfect that I'm far enough away from the house that I'm not in the house all the time. Because you gotta have your space, and there's definitely times like I'm gonna go inside and work on the computer today. I end up right back in the shop because I think I annoyed her too much. She's already got 3 kids in there. I think I was the straw that broke the camel's back.
You'll have that. Well, if people want to follow you, they want to check out your line, where can they find you?
So twogunwesternapparel.com will get you to our redesigned website that I spent like 8 hours on the other day redesigning, because I'm not spending $5,000 for a website. Dang, that's insane. But Facebook is just 2Gun with a blue check mark, and our brand is a 2 with the revolver, a lazy hanging revolver, I guess you could say. Never really described it as a cattle brand, but our brand is a 2, and a revolver is pretty easy to spot. Our Instagram is 2Gun Western, and then we also have 2Gun Branding, which is we're trying to split up the custom from the brand. But anything, 2Gun Cam is my personal. And obviously, my name's Kameron Bumgardner, so you'll find it. You put in 2Gun, it comes up. Especially if you're involved in the either equine or Western industry, your algorithm will find me. And I pay a lot for paid ads. You might have already seen me. I hope you've already seen me with the amount of money I pay in ads. But yeah, it's growing. In the last couple months, it's gotten very insane. And if you're looking for a job, we are hiring. Definitely have you local to the area. We're in Joliet, Montana, just outside of Billings. I think if you lived in Billings, that'd probably be the cutoff. It's like 30-minute drive. We'll definitely make it worth your while. This isn't a minimum wage job. I definitely want somebody that's going to grow with us, and there's possibility of retail sales commission on your end if you get the sale. Working events, we're hitting events hard this year. We will be at Bucking Horse this year, set up. So if you see me there, you can holler. But yeah, we definitely need a good candidate, and I think anybody that's watching this would be a really good candidate, because you got to understand, you got to somewhat be in the Western industry to do this stuff and understand what people want to wear. You can't. But yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. Hopefully you do this again, touch on stuff that, people bring up and they want to hear about.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'm glad. Shout out Clayton.
Clayton, guys. Clayton. I don't have any made. I dropped some off at the horse sale the other day. Anything I had made, but we're doing stuff for Clayton, and it turned out really good. I wish I had something made to show, but I guess you could show our hat. This is the type of stuff that we're into. Should have had some samples ready. I don't in arm's reach, but just reach out, and I appreciate you having me on. Yeah, shout out Clayton. He's like, you'd be a perfect candidate. I was like, me. And it goes back to the surreal thing that, becoming inspirational and gaining a following is very eye-opening. You kind of have a moment where like, I gotta watch what I say now. I gotta be a lot of eyes on me.
Yeah.
You get canceled for nothing nowadays. And I'll send you a 2Gun hat. Will you be, or your own hat? We were talking about that off camera, but.
All right. Sounds like a deal.
Some hats.
Thanks for riding along with me on Horses, Hope, and Hustle. If you found even a little bit of inspiration or grit here today, share it with a friend, leave a review, or tag us on socials, and keep showing up for what truly matters. Until next time, stay true, stay tough, and keep hustling.